Thank you. Thank you. You guys can hear us? Thank you. Thank you for a lovely set of introductions. And what a joy and delight to be here with Santosh Desai, with Ria Chopra and Anurag Minus Verma. All brilliant authors, two debut writers, and one seasoned writer among us. And we could be accused of being a cabal, but we'll try and be as inclusive as possible between us and with you guys. With me being Anurag and Ria's editor and publisher, and Santosh being a wonderful HarperCollins writer. So I want to take a moment and sort of really look at what really connects your books, Memes for Mummyji, Never Logged Out, and The Great Indian Brain Rot. Uh, to a large extent, all of you look at technology. All three of you look at what the smartphone, the internet, us being so connected, unlike ever before, has done to our lives, our internal lives, to our communities, to the nation. And all of us are caught in some sort of a loop, some sort of a rot, some sort of a loop of doom scrolling. So if all of us are doom scrolling, maybe a lot of us are also doom scrolling. If my parents are also doom scrolling, Gen Z is also doom scrolling, then generationally, are we really different? Or is it, are we really the same? Is Gen X, Gen Z, Gen Y, are we more or less the same, but we have these tall towers and barriers between us? Do we? Any of you all?
I mean, briefly, like we all are doom scrolling, but I think we all are doom scrolling different things. So that makes the whole difference. It is like some writer who said that everything will kill you, but how you want to be get killed changes everything. So I think what we consume is very different. So that changes. But yeah, I think we have very similar kind of attention span at the moment, which feels very relaxing.
So our algorithms look different, but we are all caught in a rut.
Uh,
Ria?
I would agree that that's part of it, but I also think an important factor of how we interact on the internet is the amount of selfhood we have of it, the amount of time we spend developing our personality of it. And I feel like generations that came before mine have had a chance to have a very solid sense of self and interact with each other in offline spaces. So for them, the internet, at least in the beginning, was primarily for identity expression. I think for people my age who were still extremely impressionable when we were on the internet, our early experiences were identity creation online. So engagement with other people, social behavior, all of that was learned online. And we have probably all been online for the same amount of time, क्योंकि India में internet same time पे आया था. But because we were different people when we entered it, what I call in my book internet years, I feel like that really influences how we relate to it and how it weighs on us mentally. But I agree with Anurag also that it's very pick your poison when it comes to what kind of doom scrolling you want to do, and every one of us is doing it just differently. Yeah.
Santosh?
Yeah. So I think the truth is that there is something common, the fact that all of us are reacting to this very strong external force at the same time. So, I mean, temporally we are all in the same place, right? We all have to find a way to respond to it. But I think as Ria said that, for my generation, for instance, most of our self-hood identity building had already happened. Right. So for us, this is a playground in a certain sense, a playground that becomes more and more, starts kind of consuming us more and more, but even then there is a lot of us outside it. To the next generation, I think the millennials, in a sense, for them, the internet has been a very powerful force. For Gen Z, the social media has been very powerful force, and I think the next generation, Gen Alpha, is algorithmically driven. So fundamentally, even among what you can broadly call digital culture, there are different points of, and these are additive. I mean, it's not as if the next generation does not get influenced by the earlier one or the earlier influence. But so I do think that there are very different kind of specific triggers for each of these audiences, and it informs the way that they think about the world.
Even just to make a small point, last day we were discussing that in our time, there was a concept of logging out. So we used to make sure that log out kar liya. Like we used to go to cyber cafe and make sure sab kuch log out hai, kahin message nahi ja raha.
Sign out.
Now, like, what's the title of our book? Now nobody logs out.
No,
It's very rare.
actually, I find it
And if
fascinating.
you log out, it's difficult to log in because of the codes and everything. Yeah.
It's impossible. No, the other thing I find it fascinating, look at language. We refer to the world online, and the obverse offline is the physical world, right?
Yeah.
What took the universe 4.6 billion years to create, physical reality, now is the other. It is the other. The truth is online, And yeah, the exception is offline. You know, you have to go offline. I mean, I just find it fascinating that we do
And
that.
offline is also considered some kind of a spiritual retreat. like yeah, offline.
Yeah, we
And you know, it
detox.
changed.
Yeah.
And there is also smugness of that quitter who quit internet for 10 days and becomes
And
so
came
smug. Like, I'm the quitter and I'm above you. So, you know,
Yeah.
that's also
Ria, is it at all possible to log out and without being smug?
Without being smug about it. I mean, touching grass is a thing I think all of us have heard that it's very fashionable to say that I'm going to log off and touch grass. I think a lot of, especially younger people, are almost taking it like a trend. कि try करते हैं कि it's a good thing that they're trying, but I feel like when digitality is still the center of your life, जब भी आप logged out होते हो, you're still thinking, oh, look at me, I'm not on my phone. You know, I'll go back and post a story that my screen time was only 1 hour today. I think that smugness still exists, which means even if you're not online, you're thinking of online and your reality online. A better way I would say to go about it is, and this is not advice, but it's something that worked for me, is to just find pockets of reality जहाँ आप भूल ही जाते हो that, you know, with someone you love, having intelligent conversations with friends, having fun listening to other people. Those pockets of time where you forget your phones and the internet exist at all, I feel like that is the real touching grass. Versus effort to be like, oh, today I will, you know, be offline and like try to do it. And I that's my personal viewpoint on that.
Anurag, should we try resisting the attention economy and what's happening to our attention economy? The kind of near assault on our attention, where attention itself is commodity. It is a marketable, monetizable, algorithmic unit of commerce today. Should we try resisting this at all? Is there only smugness to this?
I mean, there are two ways. One way we can do it, and one we can limit our screen time. And there are many apps like Opel is there. There are many apps who lock your screen time and lock many apps. So that is there. But I think in the contemporary world, it's become very difficult to resist that. And there are many people who says that ऑनलाइन मत रहो, ऑफलाइन देखो, दुनिया बहुत सुंदर है, ऑफलाइन देखो. बट ऑफलाइन क्या देखें दिल्ली में, पॉल्यूशन है चारों तरफ, देयर इज नथिंग टू सी. सो आई प्रेफर लुकिंग ऑन inwards, which I call online. So
We embrace and we sort of drop this binary of IRL and online.
But the attention thing is a very serious thing at the moment, and I think many people are also realizing it. So that's why this new discourse that has happened, that phone is the new smoking, the screen is the new smoking. So that discourse is there, and now many people are realizing it, how to detox themselves maybe. Yeah.
Santosh, should we be thinking and talking actively about looking for tools to resist this assault on our attention economy and what's happened to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can look for the tools, but I'm pessimistic about chances of success because we've done some work recently with Gen Alpha, which is the emerging generation, and you find that there is a lot of consciousness parents have about the fact that this is not screen time needs to be limited, etc. for children, but frankly, their policing efforts are very, very lame and very half-hearted because at one level they recognize the fact that you have to be connected. If you want to be successful in today's world, you cannot be offline. And so there is this sense, but I don't know how to navigate it. I don't know what guardrails to put, and therefore it is all too much. The idea, how do you navigate something, and how do you control something when that device is with you all the time, right? Where all your functions are carried out through that device. You pay through your device, you connect through your device. So it's easier said than done. It's
All
very
OTPs
easy to
are
say
on
this.
the phone as well.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, how do you actually, in a material sense, with AI, you will be doing your homework with it. You will be doing. So I'm not very optimistic about. I understand that it's like the air we breathe, right?
Yeah.
It's like pollution. There's nothing we can do about it, right? We can just lock ourselves up, and then we can use quasi purifiers like the apps that Anurag talks about. But beyond that, I'm a little pessimistic that we can control this.
But I sometimes uninstall them out of anger.
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
And reinstall them in a few days.
Jiffy, yes. Santosh, one quick question. You recently wrote in one of your columns on what's happened to our notion of time itself, right? And our experiences mediated through time. And you talk of soft time and hard time. And what traditionally used to be hard time experiences like news or leisure, etc., a lot of those have become soft time experiences. And we are in this constant blurring and fluid time space where, there is a kind of simultaneity and continuity of everything that meant to have designated time zones or demarcations. What's also happened to our experience and what's happened to ourself through what's happened to our time in how you look at it?
So I think, if you think about this, the fact that I grew up in in an era of hard time, where everything happened in fix. So you watched that newspaper in the morning, it was hard time, and the world came to you orderly form. Or the 9 o'clock news was a hard time, right? You went to vacations, everything was set in time. And soft time was the odd Sunday afternoon where you did nothing and you idled time away. Today, actually, what happens is that more and more of the hard time has become soft. So while we are watching a film, also we are scrolling, right? So more and more of our lives is governed by this liquidy kind of time, where we are not really, and so that's why it affects a lot of things. It affects memory. You don't have fixed signposts in your mind anymore. So things just flow. So at the end of the day, after scrolling for 8 hours, if somebody asks you, okay, what did you scroll? Tell me one reel that you saw. And most of us would be hard pressed to remember one thing, right? So memory, relationships. Today, relationships are constructed in soft time. We are casually WhatsApping people rather than making hard time for each other. And therefore, relationships we are connected all the time, but it's a very shallow connection. Democracy, for instance. Again, if you look at soft time democracy, it's earlier, if we needed to get political, it was for a particular moment in a conversation. Now we are political 24 hours a day. Right? So, and it is seeping it is dripping politics into our timeline. And we are not aware of how it is shaping us. We are constantly mobilizing ourselves against it. So this state of constant mobilization, this state of always kind of, religion. You go to temple once in a while, you keep a fast once in a while. Now, in the morning, there is a WhatsApp message that comes to you, a bhajan comes to you, something. Again, bit by bit, in a way that we cannot resist, that do not have the power to resist.
But I'd argue, a lot of what's happening in soft time, with our brain rot and our doom scrolling, some of that is also percolating to hard time politics in South Asia, for instance. In the last few years, in the last 2 odd years, we've seen what is chronically online behavior, what is soft time in this sense, become real, tangible, actual toppling of governments, right? We've seen Gen Z, we've seen millennials, late millennials, student activists, young people take to the streets and hold power accountable for a generation or generations that are just bracketed as unserious, right? As people that don't know what they're doing, as people that are listless and goalless and distracted and ADD, etc. These are also generations that have managed to hold power accountable. I don't know if such a thing will ever happen in India, but you look at our own neighborhood. You look at what's happened in Nepal, what's happened in Bangladesh, what's happened in Sri Lanka. We've seen authoritarian governments or signs of authoritarianism being seen early and clocked. How do you look at your generations taken to the streets?
These have been called Gen Z revolutions, sorry. So, I like them, if you're asking how do I look at them personally. But I also think it is a generational movement against systems that you've realized are not working for you anymore. And something I touch upon in my book, and it comes up a lot in discourse as well, that our generation in particular, and millennials, etc. as well, exist permanently in a state that's called perma-crisis, which is basically that the world has been throwing crisis after crisis at us, right? The rise of right-wing authoritarian politics, COVID ho gaya phir, we saw mass failure of healthcare systems, political systems, climate change, and no one is doing anything about it. You can see it. Like in Delhi, you can see the pollution and nothing is happening. I feel like the realization that none of these systems work for you, you have to do something yourself, and being able to mobilize on that it's us against a world that is not doing anything for us. I feel like that is what drives these revolutions. The fact that the linguistics of them, the vocabulary of them is very
Modes of
Gen Z.
organizing as well.
Yeah. And we're able to speak that same language. We're able to come together and do that. I feel it's very, very powerful. It shows that young people are capable of doing something. I see it here now, at least young people of India also looking at what's happening and thinking this is possible. It's possible to stand up for what you think is right. I hope we see more collective coming together, the seeing of ourselves not as communities, as separates, but as a generation who can do something and make the world better that eventually we only have to live in. Now, जिन्होंने किया वो तो चले जाएंगे. It's us who have to survive here. So, it comes down to us, I think.
Do you see hope in
I think it's also very confusing that whole term called Gen Z, because Gen Z is not a homogeneous category. So you can't say that this is what Gen Z want or
No,
this
but
is what
largely
Gen
the
Z.
revolutions we saw in South Asia
But
were
in
led
India,
by young people.
but in India, it is very different. For example, someone from Rajasthan, someone from Delhi might want a Gen Z from Delhi might be very desperate to attend the concert of Taylor Swift. Then Rajasthani Gen Z might be very desperate to attend the concert of Sapna Chaudhary. So it's completely different world. A Gen Z from Bombay might be obsessed with Zohran Mamdani, and maybe a Gen Z from Rajasthan with Ashok Gehlot. So how do you bring together the same aspirations? So it's become very difficult to bracket them into a one single category and then analyze something that why revolution can happen or can't happen. It is because every state has a very different from a caste perspective. So Gen Z is not a singular category which can bring certain revolution, bring certain change. I mean, they can do it in their own state. For example, in Rajasthan, in Bihar, there are many revolutions which are led by Gen Z for paper leak. If there is some kind of a paper leak somewhere in Bihar, in Rajasthan, so this is also a Gen Z revolution. They are fighting against the system, but not maybe that cool or aesthetic to be made into a national-wide news of how revolution should be. Yeah.
Wonderful. How do you look at young people's revolutions in South Asia, Santosh?
I think, one of India's superpower is its ability to resist change. I think, and to my mind, and it's somewhat crude formulation, but I think Indian society has constructed itself in a way that it wants progress, but it doesn't want change. This is, to my mind, a central issue in India today. We want progress, we want the outer sounds of development, but we fundamentally resist change. So even across generations, I mean, at one level, and that's what I find interesting about digital culture, is that at the individual level, it is transformative. Each of us, it transforms, but at the collective level, it actually goes back. It actually, strengthens formulations of the past at a broad level. There will be exceptions, there will be small, movements that to the contrary. And I think this ability of the collective and in India, everything you look at it, politics was meant to transform society. Society has irredeemably transformed politics, right? You look at institutions that were meant to transform society are all infiltrated by politics. You look at the judiciary today, it started speaking in a communitarian language. It speaks like a village elder. It does not speak in the language of jurisprudence. So fundamentally what is happening today is the fact that, so it's almost like, I look at the metaphor of sediment and flow. Think of Indian past as sediment, and through it, we are trying to cut through, right? With the flow is political formations like ideas like democracy, technology. Most of the flows have been compromised by the sediment, they are silted. So actually we are not being able to, technology was a hope, the fact that it would be able to cut through, but if I was to look at the net effect, small changes notwithstanding, the marriage systems have not changed. Yeah. Caste has not changed. Yeah. Look at the big formulations of Indian society. None of them have changed. Because of, however much we talk about internet change, those haven't changed.
So the verdict is that we're not capable of a revolution then.
I mean, even anti-corruption department get jailed for corruption.
Exactly.
But from revolution to the other thing I want to talk about is truth and then love. What's also happened, and back to online lives and digital lives and our digital realities, is that what's also happened to us is that our notion of truth has become so fragmented, right? What we believe in, values we believe in, versions of events that have happened, and facts that are supposedly facts are also now tailor-made, right? The algorithm is now also everybody's my bap in the version of truth and cosmology and life worlds you're able to design for yourself and curate for yourself. But that's also a dangerous place to be in, because in this post-truth times that we are in, truth itself has become, the capital truth itself has become some sort of a tragedy. Has it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's like, the meaning of truth and the idea of truth itself, as I think we know widely, has got compromised. I mean, my generation believed in truth through institutions. The next generation believed in through people. Institutions were suspect, but people had credibility. Now I think they're moving to a time where truth is a vibe. Truth is a mood. Truth is an ambient kind of a thing that hangs in, but it's not tangible anymore, because it is about what you're drawn to algorithmically becomes the truth, right? So truth is very interesting. We as a generation, the younger generations have learned to suspect people speaking. Where do you come from? But we don't suspect algorithms. Nobody asks, why am I seeing this? Why is this being served to me? Nobody asks that. And I think that is what is shifting, is that not only our pursuit of truth itself, and I do feel that in today's discourse, actually nobody cares if it is the truth, as long as it supports my point of view. Nobody cares if it's the truth.
Even if I give the example of one of my friend who was a creator. So earlier he used to make left-wing content, but then he realized that there is no special engagement. Then he totally moved towards soft right, whatever that means, and he started getting engagement. Now that's his politics because of the algorithm. So there is a famous quote by Mukti Bodh ki darling तुम्हारी politics क्या है? So now it answer to his algorithm क्या मांग रही है?
I just want to add, I also, on this theme of truth, see in people my age and the next generation, Gen Alpha, a huge inability to deal with the fact that facts can be presented to you that you don't agree with, and then it's fact. Because this thing of algorithms, we think algorithms show us things that we like. कि मैं Instagram पे जो like करती हूँ, I'll get more reels like that. In fact, they also continually show you things that you believe in, which means it's entirely possible to have a feed, what we call an echo chamber, which is just things that you believe in when people saying those things again and again and again. And with AI that agrees with everything that you say, you exist in a realm of no disagreement. आपको कभी face ही नहीं करना पड़ता that I see something that I then disagree with. So then to go out on the streets and into the world where inevitably you will meet people who don't have the same opinions, who have different versions of the truth. In fact, probably truthful truth that yours are, maybe based in lies. The inability to contend with, I might be wrong, or I might be able to disagree with them fruitfully, that I think is being lost. Like, it's either full-blown argument, which sometimes online boils to like cancellation or just like block each other, blah, 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 or to just ignore that altogether. Let me exist in my echo chamber. I think that's making us very fragmented, which is what is now being called post-truth. Like, it's these pockets of different truths and everyone just continuing by
the silos that we live in.
Exactly.
Now, from truth, I want to quickly move on to love, and back to you, Ria. Your generation has, of course, reinvented how we love. Modes of loving, modes of dating, etc., have gone through a significant transformation between generations like Santosh's, yours, or Anurag's and mine. Tell us what today dating as a Gen Z person is like.
A lot is spoken about this. So I think there's a lot of discourse out there already. Like every week there's a new term. There was situationship, ghosting that came originally. Now there's like benching, orbiting. I keep getting asked about these things.
But there's also something to be said that Gen Z is conservative in their attitudes towards love. Is that true?
I was actually coming to that. I feel like there's two things that are happening. I think the emotion of love is the same. We all seek love, which is not changed. I think the medium and the ways we convey that to each other, our language has changed in terms of love. Dating has changed, which is that you have dating apps now, which means you have access to more partners. Hookup culture is a thing. There's an acceptance of different kinds of relationships. Monogamy is not just the only sole option anymore. Even our laws are a little bit changing. You see live-in relationships, at least to some degree, being recognized legally, though there are problems there as well, but like all of that. I think the conservatism that is coming in now is coming in from a twofold realization that one, and conservatism is basically these statistical readings that show that young people are politically conservative, also sexually and romantically conservative, and are not as wild as we were maybe like 5-10 years back. I think it's a realization once again that the world is very inhospitable. Let me just like close my circle a little bit. Like I'm okay being close to, I have bigger things to worry about, like that sort of thing. And love is sacrificed then in order to build your career or to do other things, and I'd rather focus on those things instead. I see a lot of disillusionment also amongst people my age, where they're like, hame nahi milega, sab, everyone is like bad, blah, blah, blah. I think what is also happening is a huge gender tension online. If you go to the realms of Reddit and Twitter where men talk to each other,
and
that I had to go through in order to write my book, like incel pockets, the kind of discourse that, and these are real people who are saying very real things about the other gender. I feel like, once again, that fragmentation, that lack of interaction with the other gender in healthy spaces, only having interacted with them online, and then saying that the world is rigged against us and, we're never going to win. I feel like that is also increasing gender disparity, and hence maybe the conservatism that is coming in is also because of that. Third thing, and I'm sorry I'm taking up too much
No,
time,
take your time.
but I don't think we were ever as liberal as we thought we were in terms of, we may have had access to, say, partners of different castes and classes through dating apps, but if you look at marriage statistics, endogamous marriage is still heavily happening. People are still marrying within their class groups, caste groups, people that their parents have chosen for them, or at least would approve of, which then influences the kind of partner that you find. So I don't think we looked probably a lot more progressive than we actually were, and now we're just seeing statistical data that proves that also.
Quickly to you, Anurag, on the same question. What was the date like when you
I
know?
mean, at my time, like it's very old.
Hamare zamane mein. And imagine when Santosh comes in about his zamane.
I'm the Mummyji in the title, so I will speak like that.
So at that time, I think maybe in 2011, 10, if I remember,
Where dating apps were not a thing,
The dating
no?
apps were not
Not
a
a
thing, and
thing.
it was very normal to get beaten up when you love. So that was part of the love aesthetic.
Going on a date.
Going on a date.
Unchaperoned.
And you're going on 14th February, then there
Oh.
are chances that you'll be beaten up, or you'll get a lecture that if you have to love someone, love your parents. Which I
Only parents.
which I found some kind of a Freudian analysis later on. But so that was the times at that time, and I think many people used to. Through the Bollywood, people used to think that love is a very beautiful thing, it's a dreamy thing, but then they realized that the dreamy river of the love goes through the sewage of the society, because when they interact with the public, interact with the world society, it was a very different thing. But I think after that dating apps and everything, and what that Oyo revolution, which I call the love hotel of Japan, so something has changed in the society in that purely capitalistic time. So things have changed after that. But still, I think, especially in the small town, like I come from a small town, so that attitude is very different towards the dating app. Tinder is considered impure. Shadi.com is considered pure. So Shadi.com, I always say, is a Tinder with Ganga Jal.
Pure and pious.
So there is some kind of purity. So that notion are still there. The societal notion are still there. Even if you meet someone on Bumble or any other app, then also you have to go through the same society algorithm of color, of caste, of class, religion, and thousand mangle,
Ethnicity,
kundli. So
tribe,
same thing
location,
happened.
language,
Yeah.
yeah.
So maybe for a brief window you can enjoy your love vacation for a while.
But dating
yeah.
apps did come with the promise of equality, the promise of anonymity, the promise of safety, right? And a lot of that we've seen over the years been violated. But they also allowed a lot of forbidden kinds of love and forbidden kinds of desire expression. They allowed a lot of people, such as same-sex desire or various other gender combinations, they gave them a kind of voice, a kind of platform at a time when India is still trying to articulate its position from a sort of conservative place to a relatively tolerable one. Santosh,
No, I mean,
you're from the letter writing era, right?
I'm actually from the time when a note was slipped in somebody's book.
Book, okay. Tell us. Tell us about your first few dates.
Yeah, no. It's actually, it was not even that. Our era was the fact of, there was a girl at the window that you used to yearn for. Then there was somebody who would say, कि वो तो मेरी वाली है. अब वो मेरी वाली doesn't know he exists, right? But वो मेरी वाली है, and it was hopeless. I mean, come on. I mean, there was no question of dates, and there was no question of all of that. It was just yearning, and and there were so many people in hostels listening to sad Mukesh songs, because they have an imagined heartbreak that they had of somebody who never knew they existed. So I think it was. I think love was an exotic confection. The idea of love. So जैसे वो गाना था अंग्रेजी में कहते हैं कि I love you. It's almost like linguistically, the idea of love was this amazing chocolate-like new thing that you didn't know what it was. So it really, I think, in that sense, not that it didn't exist. Of course, in pockets it did, but I think by and large, the notion of romantic love was something that happened to others and was alien. And I think and there were so many and the fact is that if you did happen to speak a girl, I mean, in a time without mobile phones, by the time through jungle drums, your family would know by the time you came home that, you know, some mysterious jungle drums would say, "Acha, ladki se mil ke aaye ho kya?" How, what, you know? So it was, I think, clearly not a relevant time for this conversation.
Also, the love was considered some kind of an international thing.
वही ना,
It is not an
बाहर-
Indian thing, and you have pressure to say "I love you."
Wait, I love you.
I love you is an English word. You have
You have to use love.
Huh,
That's what I'm
love.
saying.
So that there was a lot of pressure.
Yeah, well,
to
then you had this ridiculous song called Ilu Ilu.
Ilu ilu. Yeah.
You know, I mean, which is
Ilu ilu
yeah,
kya
it
hai?
is the most cringy kind of a, you know, formulation that I've come across in my life. But you know that we were learning to save love. We were thinking of love from an outside. It was an outside idea. It was not. It did not emerge. Prem, for instance, is such a weird word, right? Prem does not sound romantic at all.
But of course,
you know,
we've had the great poetic tradition, you know, the Shaya
हाँ,
tradition of
but
pyar,
that-
ishq,
but-
mohabbat,
हाँ,
किसी के प्यार में जल
वो सब-
जाना and all of that, right?
But also,
your generation has
Persian
the most
ideas of love
beautiful
are always
language.
longing. They are all
Desire.
mystical. Their hair and eyes and nothing physical happens actually. It's all kind of
Just
long
flowers
distance.
sort of coming together.
Yeah,
but we've come a long way from the flowers sort of kissing. All right, quickly to how we buy. What we buy, what's in our tote bag, how we present ourselves, right? What we spend money on, what's happened to our leisure from love, which I don't know if it's a good segue or not, but given the time we have, we need to make one. Ria, get us started on what Gen Z shopping looks like. What are the things we're spending our money on? What are the ads that we are being targeted by? And what are the choices we make in what we buy to curate and present our notions of self and what we want the world to perceive about us?
I'm going to start with a tweet that I saw today morning that said something like, big corporations and institutions are doing this thing where they're breaking down our ability to form social connections to a point where the only way we feel like we are connected to other people is because we buy the same things. And I feel like that's happening at a very large scale right now, and not enough is spoken about how even statistically, if you look at it, young India is in huge credit card debt. Like people my age are buying tickets to concerts, etc. on loan.
On
like,
EMI.
On EMI.
Yeah.
Right? BNPL, which is buy now, pay later, is a very smart thing that Indian companies have now, even ticketing platforms have introduced.
Buy now, pay later.
Exactly. Because they figured out that a lot of young people, probably also in a more post-COVID sort of reality, feel very disconnected, very lonely. Loneliest generation is something we hear bandied about quite a lot. Our mode of connection, our mode of culturally signaling that we are this kind of person, our void of identity is now being filled with objects. So if I want to signal that I'm, an artsy girl, I'll wear Birkenstocks and like a certain kind of tote bag, which is a London bookstore, that Shakespeare and Company, maybe tote bag, that
New
sort of
Yorker
thing.
tote bag.
Exactly.
Carrying an Arundhati Roy book, the
Yeah.
performative male aesthetic. Right?
Exactly. If I want to signal that I'm a very vivid sort of girl, I'll wear my Adidas or my New Balance, and Onitsuka tigers are very in these days, I've heard. So those objects becoming
That
associated.
is not an endorsement.
Yeah, and I spotted your gully wraps the minute that I walked in also. So the kind of aesthetic that we have now is a consumerist way to express the kind of identity we want to have. And you have large corporations promising you that you cheez kharido. Look at how marketing happens now. It's entirely based on emotion. Like get this pretty looking skincare and you'll be clean girl, or you'll be like, hot girl or cool girl. And it's often marketed towards women because women are considered to be easily emotionally swayed into spending. But I feel like these are identity voids that young people are trying to fill in with objects. And this is a never-ending prospect. And enough people don't think about how this is also causing climate change, environmental degradation, like the massive amounts of plastic that the skincare industry generates. Like someone should do a study on that. People are doing studies on that.
Or tote bags ending up in landfills.
Exactly. The tote bag was a promise that kapde ka bag jo hota hai is not as bad as single-use plastic bags. Now, everywhere you go, every brand will give you a tote bag. They will say wear it, put a picture with it, take a selfie with it. Every event you go to, there's a tote bag. Every purchase that you have, where are all the tote bags going? To the landfill. And very often these are not biodegradable organic cotton that is being used. This is plastic polymer. So the scale at which consumerism is happening, it's harming us, it's harming the environment, it's harming our sense of identity and selfhood, and it is making us more disconnected from each other in some way. I feel like we need to find better foundations for identity than object.
Santosh, you've tracked the brand story, the consumer story, like nobody here has, right? What has changed about how we buy, what we buy, and why we buy?
See, I think one of the things that is foundationally true. I mean, John Berger said this, that the product steals our love for ourselves as we are and offers to sell it back to us for the price of the product. So that's the foundational idea of products. The fact that you fundamentally we are made to distrust ourselves. How the shift has happened is from a time when it was filling something empty and we are trying to buy that back. I think the truth is that today actually it's quite unprecedented how identity is formed today because of the fact that everybody is a broadcaster and self-presentation. See, otherwise we were all nobodies. We were nobody. Who the hell cared who I was? Right? You grew up in without anybody giving a rat's ass, for who you were. But you're just nobody, right? Today everybody is somebody. Everybody has to present themselves on a daily basis. You have to change your DP. You have to tell the world who you are. So in a sense, what is happening is identity is pixelated, and each pixel is the choice that you make. The Birkenstock is a pixel in that identity. So fundamentally, we are constantly creating and recreating. So we are a beta version of ourselves all our lives. And that is why it is such a pressure. And the role of products is therefore inexhaustible in such a situation.
Anurag, the self, like he's saying, today has become a product. Each individual atomized, pixelated, has become a self. But in how we perform self on the internet, right? The internet that came with the promise of equalizing society, internet came with social media, internet, etc., big tech, came with the promise of equal access, of deep democracy, of flattening hierarchies. It hasn't really managed to do that because the IRL social realities of our lives, such as caste, such as language, such as identity, rurality, etc., they continue to be mimicked, right? The same behavior how we behave with each other in society is also how we behave with each other online.
Kind of, but just to finish that thread, I think I call Gen Z as cultural majdoor. Because there's so much of pressure on them to follow the trends which they don't decide for themselves, and somebody will tell them all the time कि अब ये पहनो, अभी बर्किन है बर्किन पहनो, अभी पीटर कैट का कॉन्सर्ट आ गया, घर पे क्या कर रहे हैं, वहाँ जाके ये वाला पहन, वहाँ न्यू बैलेंस के जूते पहन, अभी धर्मशाला फेस्टिवल जा. So there's a lot of pressure on them all the time. They don't decide for themselves, and there is a pressure online. So that is there. Second thing about, I don't entirely agree that things haven't changed. Things have changed a bit offline to online. Online things have changed in a way, but same hierarchy will happen on the internet. Shouldn't be a surprising thing for anybody, because I think for a long time people used to think internet is some kind of an alien space where things don't happen how it happens on the offline world. But now that the distinction is blurred, and both are the same thing. The same kind of hierarchy of, let's say, misogyny, caste, class, you will see on internet, maybe in a more broadcastable and strong way. So that is something which we see. Like, for example, currently in the caste element, there is an idea of Kshatriyahood. Like, you can't become, like you are born Yadav, you may not become Brahmin, but you can become Kshatriya. So every caste are now going to claim that space of Kshatriyahood, and to claim that space, they are making viral videos, they are making viral reels, and their videos are in millions. Everybody is playing their own caste song, every caste is doing, and they are trying to prove they come from a Kshatriya lineage. And now I call this as a caste mythology, a digital caste mythology, which is going to play out on internet. So if one wants to go deeper in that, then you can read my book. In fact, I wrote in detail because time is very less.
All their books, Memes for Mummyji, Never Locked Out, and The Great Indian Brain Rot, are available at the bookstore. They're going to sign copies for you right here, right after the session. Now, I want to quickly bring in audience members who may have questions. We'll have a volunteer go around. Let's start with row 2 here. Please keep them brief and keep them to questions, not so much comments. Thank you.
Hello. So, as I was able to understand from this whole conversation, are we considering algorithm as some kind of a cultural industry which leaves the consumers online as some kind of silent, passive recipient of it? And another question, yesterday I heard on some online that someone commented that on the chat GPT there is some kind of heavy input that is very, very sovereign, and upper caste algorithm is being dominated by it.
So your question 1 has to do whether we are just silent recipients of big tech, and whether ChatGPT has a kind of caste element to it. Would one of you want to take this? Who's your question for?
I mean, just to quickly answer, there may be or may not be, because this is a part of a long debate. Like earlier, there were many debate that, for example, Instagram doesn't have it has a, like, you can report some comment or something on a many different category, but there is no caste category. Same is on Twitter, so there was movement for that. So it can be related to that, but I think it's a bit complicated.
All right, in row 5 here, quickly, there's a gentleman in black. No. Here, look here. There you go. Yes.
Would the panel like to examine the concept of anxiety that has come
Anxiety.
in because of a combination of loneliness, connectivity, FOMO, and the fact that we are connected but very lonely, and this constant trying to recreate your personality, etc. So the overall umbrella of anxiety that is creeping into modern life and the youngsters' life.
Thank you,
Would you
sir.
like
Ria,
to
you want to
examine
take
this,
that?
please?
I mean, statistically, yes, one of the most anxious generations in the world. That's the title of a book also that I quite enjoy, The Anxious Generation. I feel like a lot of it comes from offline sources, like the word as it exists as well, culminates on the internet, where all of you're just getting information at the speed of light without processing it, right? If I scroll on my feeds today, there's a child being blown up in Palestine. Then the next is some influencer showing me what's in her bag. Then the third thing is some ad that will make me feel bad about myself. And the fourth thing is my friend on vacation while I'm sitting at home. I feel like not dealing with everything and having too much of everything being thrown at you is a lot of the cause of that anxiety, because we don't even know who we are. We exist between scrolls. So yes, I agree. I think there's more of that in his book also, my book also, and his as well. So just to keep this short, I feel like yes, we do look at that, but in different ways. This generation definitely is bearing a huge brunt of that. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll go to the gentleman there in white. Yes.
Green, actually. So I'm speaking on behalf of the baby boomers who didn't even merit a mention in the first category. I know Santosh didn't represent us, which is why I'm standing
Please
up.
ask, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
No, sorry, I'm violating. I'm actually making two comments. The first is that the revolutions that you talked about didn't happen online. They happened in person. And the second is that this event is also offline.
Yes.
And the desire and the volume of traffic that comes to this represents a need for real contact, because JLF has grown bigger every year for the last 19 years.
And kudos to JLF for doing a fabulous job year after year. Thank you for that reminder, sir. We'll go to row 5 there, please. The lady who's got her hand raised. Yes. Volunteers, quicker. Yeah, thank you.
What do you have to say about Gen Z's choices in careers, especially given how AI is taking up jobs or
Thank
is
you.
likely
Yeah.
to take up?
Thank you. Ria and Santosh could both take that because you work with a lot of young people.
Yeah. No, I think, what, to my mind, the big change with Gen Z is the fact that this is a generation that has, we were a generation where the rules were given and we wanted to break them, some of us. This is a generation where none of the rules apply. They have to make rules. So far, breaking them is a separate issue. I think a generation which needs to make rules, which is looking at work, and context has changed, and it is saying the old codes of work do not apply. And they are able to see the hypocrisy of some of the old codes of work. They are anxious about the fact that tomorrow's world looks very uncertain, and therefore a lot of the critique that normally comes of Gen Z from an older generation, that they are flaky, they don't, that they do not have that kind of a commitment to work, I think does not appreciate the fact that they are living in fundamentally a different context, which they have to create as they go along. Older generations never had to do that.
Thank you, Santosh. And if we were to go by a certain very powerful gentleman who lives in India, an industrialist, he really wants us to have 70-hour work weeks, which is really, really ridiculous, right? He could perhaps start working 70 hours himself. We've got this gentleman here in row 4. One question, and then we must wrap. We will be here signing copies. So for those of you who didn't get a chance to ask questions and express yourselves, come find us, buy our books, get them to sign it, take selfies. Yeah, sir.
A quick question. Are we losing our ability to discern? Because people aren't hungry, they are famished. They aren't tired, they are exhausted. I recently got a resume, not of a good resource, but a talent powerhouse. So everything is being presented with such extremities. Are we losing our ability to discern?
Thank you. Who's this for?
Santosh first,
Santosh?
but I would like to hear from the others as well.
No, absolutely. I think there is a proliferation of meaning. Everything is more meaningful and more transient simultaneously. And I think that is also the source of a lot of anxiety, because, you know, we live in a world of superlatives. We live in a world where everything feels much more intense. We feel it much more. And also it's a world where I think more and more we are mediating our understanding through emotion, including our institutions. The biggest institutions today are run on emotion. Democracy. If you look at democracy as an institution, fundamentally, if you go back in time, it is about how do you convert emotion into governance, is what my definition of democracy is. Mass sentiment, which is run through a process till it finally becomes policy. Today, politics is mass sentiment. Today, everything is mass sentiment in a sense. And therefore, our language is a language of emotion, of feeling, of supercharged feeling. And you're absolutely right.
Copies of Memes for Mummyji, Never Locked Out, and The Great Indian Brain Rot are available. You see a queue forming there. You can come see us and get them to sign copies. You all have been a wonderful audience. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you.